I was a program manager leading a cross-functional program within a parcel hub operating 3 shifts with 142 frontline employees. Volume moved from mornings to evenings, so the existing shift pattern created overtime and unstable weekend coverage. I needed to communicate a direction that moved 24 roles later while maintaining trust and service. I considered mandatory reassignment, voluntary moves with incentives, and a phased roster change that combined volunteers, preference matching, and limited recruitment. Before announcing a solution, I held small group sessions on all shifts, reviewed caring and transport constraints with HR, and published the volume and overtime data behind the change. I proposed an 8-week transition, guaranteed no loss of contracted hours, offered shift swaps, and created weekly office hours plus an anonymous question log answered publicly. Employees feared the plan was a precursor to redundancies. I stated what I knew and did not know, invited the union representative into design reviews, and shared the approved headcount plan. Feedback showed the proposed 22:30 finish missed the last bus. I moved the shift 30 minutes earlier and added a paid overlap, accepting a small productivity cost to remove a genuine access barrier. Before closing the action, I sampled performance across different shifts and demand conditions, so the result did not depend on one unusually experienced team or a quiet operating window. I translated the outcome into a simple frontline mechanism with a named owner, an escalation threshold, and a weekly measure, which made the change repeatable after I stepped away. I also documented the operating assumptions, named the owner for each follow-up action, and set a clear review date so that temporary controls could not quietly become permanent. I wrote the decision, assumptions, owners, and stop conditions on a 1-page control plan so the next shift could challenge the logic rather than rely on verbal context. I used both a leading indicator and a customer outcome measure that prevented a short-term productivity improvement from hiding quality, safety, or backlog age. During implementation, I stayed at the operating point for the first cycle, asked frontline employees what the mechanism missed, and changed only one variable at a time. I assigned named owners for each checkpoint and made escalation thresholds visible in the shift huddle, which reduced ambiguity when I was not physically present. After stabilization, I compared the result with the original baseline, checked for cost or defect displacement, and documented the mechanism for the other shifts. Before committing, I asked a supervisor who disagreed with me to identify the weakest assumption, then converted that concern into a measurable checkpoint rather than relying on consensus. I separated mandatory controls from preferences, which let the team move quickly without weakening the safety, quality, or customer promise that the operation existed to protect. For each alternative, I estimated the likely customer impact, labor requirement, operational reversibility, and worst credible failure, and I explained why my chosen path offered the best balance. I briefed affected teams before launch, checked understanding through questions rather than attendance, and made the escalation route clear to people working outside my shift. I also protected normal operations by defining which work would pause, which work would continue, and who could authorize expansion beyond the initial controlled scope. At every review point, I compared actual performance with the assumption that justified the decision. When they diverged, I changed the plan rather than defending the original recommendation. I made the cost of the choice visible as well as the benefit, because hiding overtime, rework, or displaced backlog would have made the result look stronger but less useful. Once the immediate issue was resolved, I held a short review with frontline representatives and partner teams, captured what failed in the original mechanism, and assigned permanent actions. 20 employees volunteered, for were preference matched, no one left because of the change, overtime fell 38%, and on-time departure improved from 94.1% to 98.0%. Trust during change comes from exposing the reason, creating safe ways to challenge it, and visibly changing the plan when concerns reveal a better answer.